Okay, we're back here. Okay, so let's get a lot more people to take information. Do you think you... here's the... Of course, the same things. So I decided to take a little money. There's an old saying. It's not that winners do certain things, it's that they do things in a certain way. And in a minute, I'm going to give you the details of how a winner, a producer, would go through this particular 55 to 60 minute training. But before I do, let's get the money thing out of the way so that you can totally relax. This training is not going to lead to a squeeze page or a sales page or a website where we're going to try to extract money from you. I've always believed that network marketing is about freely giving away what was given to you, and in the past several years I've seen more and more of these internet gurus selling quote-unquote secrets. Folks, I'm here to tell you, and everybody that's successful in network marketing knows this, there are no secrets, just a couple of things that we don't know when we get started. Now, this all was inspired by my friend and mentor, Tom Big Al Schreider. Tom told me when I would express my frustration over hearing people in my organization spending thousands of dollars on useless information, that you can't stop people from hurting themselves, but maybe we could offer an alternative. And my beautiful wife, the fabulous Davine, well, she said, hey, why don't we start giving this stuff away free? That way people can become successful, because we all know that which we share will multiply and that which we hold will diminish. So that was really the inspiration for this. Now, I want to get that out of the way so that you realize there's no hook, there's no, hey, if you want the real inside story, if you want to know what the real leaders do, click here. There's going to be no sales pages, no squeeze pages. We don't really sell anything. So you can sit back and totally enjoy this. So what do winners do? Well, this is what top producers do when they come across great information. First of all, since you know you're not being pitched, just view the whole thing entirely. Let it wash over you. And then you want to go back and review particular parts of it and study it. Now, it's always been my idea that skills that we learn work better if we practice them and then use them. To help you ease into that, we're going to make one or two little tiny suggestions, a little change you make in your vocabulary in your everyday life. So use the suggested experiments and be an observer. Watch what happens when you just change a couple of words or do a couple of things in your daily life. It doesn't even have to be in the prospecting and recruiting mode. And you'll have fun with it. That's the main thing, is you'll have some fun with it. Remember, another old saying that repetition is the mother of skills. So the more you use this stuff, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the better your results get. And this leads me to something that I hope that you find extremely exciting, which is my 3 rules of recruiting. Now, before we get started in the module itself, I want to go over my 3 basic rules of recruiting that I learned from my friend and mentor. And this is what these 2 trainings, you're going to go through this Most People skill training, and if you like it and get it out to people, and 3 of them opt in to view it, you'll get the second training absolutely free also. So here's my 3 rules. Number 1, it's got to be rejection free. Let's face it, people don't like rejection. It doesn't take a 3-year-old long to figure out not to put their finger in a socket that they get shocked at. And certainly new people we bring in the business don't like being rejected either. Number 2, it can't embarrass or pressure prospects because, well, that's simply bad manners, and nobody wants to be in a business where they have to use bad manners to build a business. And number 3, well, it's flat out got to work. So when you use these approaches, what you want is the prospect to want to get more information, and you want it to be rejection free, because if it's not effective, well, people are going to stop using it. What you're going to learn in these back-to-back trainings, this one and the next one, is in less than 90 seconds, you'll be able to instantly create prospects on demand, and they're ready to buy and they're ready to join very quickly. Now, that doesn't mean they're pulling out their credit card in 90 seconds. What it means is that they're ready to buy your next suggestion, and they're ready, which is to review information or go to a meeting or go to a webcast, but they're ready to buy your next suggestion. They're open-minded to it, and they're ready to join you in reviewing that. I know that I was excited when I adopted these 3 rules. I said, wouldn't that be great if it was that easy? Well, it really is, but you need to know what to say and what to do. Well, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that would be exciting, but what do I say? What do I actually say to make that happen? That kind of looks like a typo, doesn't it? But it really isn't. When you understand networking, you realize there are a lot of ends, meaning that recruiting and duplicating is really a process. And what do you want every time you come to the end of a little process inside the bigger process? Well, you want to get a yes. Yes to taking the call, yes to agreeing to take more information, to booking a follow-up. You want them to not only take the information, but you want them to actually review it. And there's a way to get them to say yes at each one of these junctures. So I tend to teach things from the back to the front. The next skill that you're going to get, called Build an Instant Rapport, will show you how to get to each one of these places, but what's the point in getting to those places if you don't know how to get a yes 94% of the time? Now, that's really what this is all about, lots of yeses, so we're beginning with the ends in mind. Now, I'm going to assume that I have your permission to talk about the way that it really is, not the way that they tell you on conference calls or trainings, or, draw it on the little board there or on a big overhead or a projection screen. You get 3, who get 3, who get 3, and at the end of 1 year, you have 19,000 people in your organization. Would it be okay if we talk about what happens in real life? I have a question for you, and I want you to try to keep this in mind so there's a particular perspective as you go through this. Do you believe that you're just 2 words and 60 days away from exploding your group? If you can keep that perspective, I'm going to show you how to get yes at every single juncture better than 90% of the time. It'd be okay with you if I showed you a couple of places where these 2 simple words have brought myself and my beautiful wife, the fabulous Davine. We've been all over the world, won awards, and asked to speak in front of thousands and thousands of people. There's a picture of us speaking down in Orlando in front of about 6,000 or 7,000 people. These 2 words have won us trips to different corners of the world. There we are riding an elephant. Are you kind of getting excited about what these 2 words are? The beautiful part about these type of vacations is we can take them whenever we want, and we don't have to ask anybody's permission just because of 2 words. Be it opening day in Fenway Park, where they raised the flag for the 2007 World Championship, to see the Patriots out in San Francisco, and we've flown out to see the Red Sox play the Giants out in San Francisco. Great experience. All on 2 words. Share these pictures with you to establish credibility. I think showing lifestyle is important, but you're already here, and we're not really trying to upsell you into anything. There's really a point to it. There you see my beautiful wife and our 3 daughters. We flew them over to Kauai, which is where we got married. Those 2 shots on the bottom, that's the cathedral sailing the Nepali coast. And that actually on the right is a beach we go to. It's about 10 miles. We've never seen more than 10 people on that beach. We have supper down there every night and watch the sun go down. But that's not how it started. I was suffering in this business until I discovered these 2 words and a simple concept that allowed us to go from debt and desperation to peace and prosperity. This is the story that people see now, but it's certainly not how it actually started. So let's turn the clock back and see if you can identify with it. The same things. So I decided to take a little money. I rolled some change, actually, that myself and the kids would save all year to go to this little crappy amusement park. That was our one-day vacation a year. And I'm at this hotel lobby. And I go into the training, and I'm all excited. I'm going to hear some guru telling the secrets. And, of course, all he was doing was selling his junk from the back of the room, a bunch of stuff that looked fancy. But he started talking about goals, and he started talking about persistence. And I knew all about that stuff because I was raised in the Think and Grow Rich mentality. I had goals. They were written down. Nobody was more persistent than me. I knew that stuff just didn't work. And I was in there about 15 or 20 minutes, and I really got nauseous. I was literally sick to my stomach. I wander out into the hallway, and this guy was walking by, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And I started telling him my story, and I actually broke down and started crying. And he said, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And we went over and sat on this couch. Now, I have no idea why he was there. Never had a chance to thank him. But he led me on a journey that changed my life. He said to me, "Are you willing to forget everything you know about network marketing?" And I said, "Absolutely." I had that gift of desperation at that point in time. He said, "Well, I have a question for you." He said, "I want you to think of two people, Nancy," and he actually used the name Joe, but since Al's become my friend and mentor, I always like to use Al in this example as the non-achiever. Nobody's more of an achiever than Al. It's sort of a little fun that we have with him. But be that as it may, he proposed this question to me that changed my life. He said, "Well, listen, I want you to think of two reps. Let's call them Nancy and Al." And they enrolled, and of course they went in through the same data system. They paid the same price to enroll. They're going to the same meetings. They have the same belief. They're marketing the same product, same compensation plan. They're putting in the same hours. Maybe they even have the same upline. They live in the same city. They come from the same socioeconomic background. They're putting in the same amount of hours every week. They even have the same sponsor. Why is Nancy cashing huge checks, working 12 hours a week and having a great time, and Al's not cashing any checks at all? And I said the magic words that changed my life. I said, "I don't know." And he just bellowed a laughter that I'll never forget. And he said, "You have a real chance of making a lot of money." What he shared with me was the difference between Al and Nancy is simple. It's simply skills. Nancy simply does and says something different than Al when she's in prospecting situations. This concept and what all our trainings are about is this very simple idea. So we're going to cover exactly what to say, teach a little skill called most people, so you get lots of happy ends, meaning they're saying yes to taking your information, yes to the follow-up appointment, and yes to joining your business. Now, what happened at the end of that story is he taught me a few things, and within 60 days, I went from struggling in network marketing to making $3,000 a month, and within a year, we were earning a six-figure income, and he led me to my friend Tom. No, there's an old saying, I have some good news and some bad news. I just really want to make the point a second time here that goals, attitude, and persistence and time and commitment, those are not going to build your business. They're nice, fun hobbies, but they won't build your business. Let me give you some proof of that, okay? You got your goals written down? Go show them to 10 people today and ask them if they'll join your business. It's not going to make any difference to them. And when we're in a room of a lot of people and ask people who have goals, they all raise their hands, and then we ask them whose business isn't where they want it to be, and they all raise their hand. Now, I'm not saying goals aren't important. They may create inside you the desire to become a student and learn a couple of things so that your business will grow, but in and of themselves, they won't build your business, and your attitude isn't going to build your business either. Is it better to go through life a squeaky wheel or a smooth running wheel? Well, obviously, it's a nicer experience, but your attitude doesn't have anything to do with whether or not people say yes or no. And, of course, the old reliable, persistent speeches about dead body animal parts, that's not going to build your business either. It doesn't matter how persistent you are if what you're doing isn't getting you lots of yeses. So let's get right into the training. And this was important stuff to go over so that you understand the concept. When you come back and review this, obviously you can jump right to slide 12. You don't need to hear my story or this concept again, although I would suggest you hear the concept that it's about skills to build your business so you can become a teacher of that. Once you get your people focused on skills and you know the skills that'll get them results, they'll get really loyal to you, loyal to the skills, and your check will grow. Hey, let's establish a quick vocabulary, and then I'm going to give you the agenda for what we're going to do here. Now, the reason that I want to define a few things is so we can establish a common vocabulary so we can go faster. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 components of the business and 3 pieces in the recruiting cycle. Now, your team or your company or training might have 5 components to the business, or 6, or 4 or 5 steps in your recruiting protocol. But just sort of look at it as they're really both under the same umbrella, and just use this vocabulary that I have for this particular training, and don't quibble over the details. What we're going to do in the agenda is we're going to go over 2 words and a concept. Those 2 words are what led us to that peace and prosperity that I showed you earlier. And don't forget the additional skill you can get by emailing the link that we gave you to several people. As soon as 3 of them opt in, you'll get that additional skill absolutely free. Now, our industry has 3 basic components in it, and the first component is the recruiting cycle, which we're going to call the 3-step plan for this training. Of course, we want to communicate with our organization, both upline and downline, and we build from event to event. It seems that the people that do these 3 things consistently grow their business. Now, what the winners do is they spend 100% of their time in the 3-step plan or in the recruiting cycle until their group starts to grow, and then they make sure that they continue to spend 80% of their time there. At the website, World's Laziest Networker, we'll show you some really interesting ways that you can keep the main thing, which is the recruiting cycle, while also simultaneously communicating and building from event to event. But it's hard to get people to events, whether they're webcasts or live meetings or any reasonable facsimile. It's hard to get people there if you don't have people in your business. And it's hard to communicate with your downline if you don't have people in your business. So the reason that the 3-step plan is on the left is that's the first thing we have to take care of. That has to be the focus. And by being successful there, then you have people to communicate with, and you can build from event to event. So that's why we want to focus on that first. Now, I define the recruiting protocol as the 3-step plan. Let me spell it out for you so as we go through this module or this skill, it'll make sense to you. Step 1 is when we strike interest with a prospect and we sort out the serious from the kidding around. You want to make sure that you book a specific follow-up appointment. We'll show you how to get a yes to both of those. You simply measure your success rate based on whether or not you booked a follow-up. If you talk to 10 people and 9 out of them say they'll review the information, but you don't have a follow-up appointment with anybody, then they weren't successful. If you talk to 8 people and 8 people agree to review the information and 8 people have booked a specific follow-up, then you've obviously had a tremendously successful encounter. At step 2, this is where you get leverage. The prospect's going to review the information. Could be a third-party tool, meaning a CD or a DVD. Could be a little in-home meeting. Could be a hotel meeting. It could be a webinar. Those are pretty popular right now. But this is where you get to leverage your time, and this is really kind of a sorting device for you. Our experience is a prospect is not going to invest 55 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever your presentation is. This is when they view the presentation. Well, they're probably not going to put in 10 hours a week. So the key here is if you can get step 1 done in less than 2 minutes and leverage your tools, you can have several prospects reviewing it. So the less time you spend doing step 1 successfully, the more often you can do step 1. And then, of course, at step 3, get back and collect decisions. Now, John Wooden's rule, John Wooden, the great UCLA basketball coach, he taught something really simple and profound. He taught that the more concerned we are about the things we cannot control, the less we'll do about the things we can control. Now, you really ultimately don't have a whole lot of control over their decision or whether or not they actually review the information. So the best way to tip the scales in your favor is to become excellent at step 1, getting virtually everyone you talk to agree to review information. The more people that you're successful with at step 1, the more people you'll have reviewing information, and the more people that you and your upline can collect decisions from. Of course, no presentation is complete without a little math, so let's just do a little math. Let's say you talk to 100 people, and 20% agree to review information, or 20 people, okay? 80-20 rule. We've all been taught the 80-20 rule. Really something to think about. Maybe the 80-20 rule is a good rule, but maybe we're looking at it backwards. Now, if you teach that to your people, you have 100 reps, and they make 100 contacts, and 20% of the people agree to look, you have 2,000 people looking. What I want to show you is how to get 80 to 90% of the people to agree to look. So reversing that 80-20 rule, I talk to 100 people, I get 80 people to look at it. I teach that correctly to 100 reps in the organization. That's 8,000 people looking, okay? Now, if you multiply that times 50 weeks, you have 50 weeks times 2,000 people looking, or 50 weeks times 8,000 people looking. Pretty easy to figure out which one of the two groups you want to be in. The difference is 300,000, but it's really bigger than that. That's what this skill will give you. Why is it bigger? Well, because when people are hearing no 8 times out of 10, it kind of takes a little wind out of their sails, and they get more selective about who they talk to. The more selective they get, the lower the numbers go. The more acceptance they get to an offer to look at information, the higher their numbers go. So it never works out this way that you're seeing here, because your people that are hearing no 80% of the time are less likely to maintain that pace, whereas the group that gets yes most of the time is more likely to increase the pace. Okay, that's enough math. Let's get to the skill. Okay, let's get a little zen here to set all this up. When we look at things differently, they look differently to us. If you ask the average person what's trapping the tiger in his cage, invariably the answer comes back, the bars. And the truth is, the bars are not trapping the tiger in the cage, because if we rearrange those bars, then the tiger walks right out of the cage. So it's not really the bars that are trapping the tiger in the cage, it's the spacing between the bars. Why is that important? Well, we're going to ask you to look at something completely different than what you've been taught for years in networking. So what's the biggest lie in network marketing? And what's all this Zen exercise about the tigers, the bars, and the spaces? Well, we have to look at things differently if we really want to grow. And one of the things that I found out about people, including myself, is very often we continue to proceed with a method that doesn't work because we never examine the basic assumptions. We've all said and we've all been told, well, you just have to find the right people. The truth is, the right people are everywhere. Everybody wants to make more money, pay less in taxes, and have more time. What are we offering? Less taxes, more money, and more time. The question is, why do they say no? Well, what if the right people are everywhere? I mean, think about it. If everybody wants less taxes, more money, and more time, then the right people really are everywhere, and it depends on one thing, what we say and what we do. If you're not sure, try to remember this little story that Al told me about the dance. What's the dance? Well, imagine I moved into your area, and of course we're drawing a little analogy that you're my sponsor in network marketing, but I move into the area, and let's say I was single. I said, hey, I'd like to meet some people. I don't like the bar scene. And you say, oh, there's a great dance that the Chamber of Commerce puts on. So I go down to the dance, and I say, what should I do before I leave? And you say, well, just introduce yourself to people. So I go up to the first girl and say, hey, are those your real teeth? And I go to the next girl and I say, hey, how much makeup do you actually have to put on in the morning to look like that? And I go to a third woman and ask her, how much do you actually weigh? Well, chances are pretty good that I'm not going home with any phone numbers. Of course, I'm going to come home and stretching our little analogy here, and I'm going to tell you that there were no good prospects at the dance, and I need to talk to some more people. The harsh reality is, even if you got me in front of more people, more women, I'd probably ruin that too. But even more interesting is other people did go home with names and numbers. What was the difference between me, who went home with no numbers, and other people who went home with numbers? Probably had everything to do with what they said, and it was very different. So we're going to show you how to light a fire under everybody by leveraging two words and a simple concept. Remember that if we can improve at step one, and that's really where the money is, your plan, your product, and your company don't have anything to do with that initial conversation where the prospect is enticed into expressing some interest. That's key. This leads to explosive growth. If you can look at this statement, you just have to find the right people as the bars and realize it's the spaces that have been trapping you. That is your perception around this statement. The basic assumptions that we make in business that are inaccurate cannot do anything except be deleterious or destroy our efforts. Bottom line, you just have to find the right people. It's the biggest lie in network marketing. So take that and embrace that as you go through this training and realize it has everything to do with what we do and what we say. Now, the most people skill actually starts right here. So when you want to review this, and I suggest that you do that several times, just kind of let this wash over you like we suggested in the beginning. When you come back to this presentation and review it a couple of times, you can actually start right here on 19, because now we're going to get right after it. The two most powerful words I was taught by my friend and mentor are most people, and boy, are they ever. Remember, we talked that there are several little junctures in the recruiting cycle and in the building cycle. Well, with the most people skill, you can eliminate fear of the dreaded question. You know, that one question nobody wants to be asked. You can use the most people skill and have negative people ask you for a presentation. Would that be a different experience? You can use the most people skill to get a follow-up appointment within 24 hours. I hate it when somebody says, yeah, I want information, get back with me 4 months from now. You want to get that appointment within 24 hours, and you can use this most people skill to do that. And it's not going to help you overcome objections. It's going to eliminate them before they come up. When you get back to that step 3, that's when, in my recruiting protocol, that's when we're collecting decisions. You can enroll about 90 to 94% of the people. So let's get busy with it. Okay, the way that I want to share this with you is I'm going to give you an example of the most people skill. I'm not going to tell you all the details of it, but I want you to just sit back and relax and imagine that you're a prospect. I brought up the business, and you asked me the dreaded question. Are you curious about what that dreaded question is? If you are, I want you to remember that you're curious about what it actually is. Then, after I give you an example of how it would work in real life, we're going to go back over the skill itself and show you how to use it in the invitation process, getting them to book a follow-up, and getting them not only to take the information, but to actually view the information. So that's how we're going to work this. So what's the dreaded question? Well, if you're a new rep or you've been in for a little while and you're not making big money, we know that we hate that question. Well, how much have you made? It's a backbreaker, isn't it? Put your pens down. We're going to go over this, and of course this is posted up. You can review it over and over again. But it's real simple. If you were to say to me, well, how much have you made? Here's the answer. Gee, I don't know, Jerry. I haven't finished collecting it all yet. Most people, once they learn they can do something right once and get paid over and over and over again, well, they get excited or curious, and they want to get more information. But, honestly, Jerry, some of them don't. The ones that don't, I think you know the type. They'd rather drink beer, surf the internet, watch TV, and complain instead of taking care of themselves and their families. Jerry, would you like me to get you some information? At this point, your prospect doesn't have a chance. Boy, I wish I could see your face right now. Let me run it for you one more time. You've just asked me how much I made. Gee, I don't know, Jerry. I haven't really finished collecting it all yet. You know, most people, once they hear that they can do something right once and get paid over and over and over again, well, they get kind of excited and they want to get more information. But, honestly, Jerry, some of them don't. I think you know the types that don't. They'd rather watch TV, complain, smoke dope, and drink beer instead of taking care of themselves and their families. Let me get you some information. Folks, they take it 9 out of 10 times. Here's why. Now, here's really why this works. Everybody knows that we have two minds inside our head. One is the conscious mind. The other one is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind makes all the decisions. When you have a thought in your conscious mind, 2,000 synaptic connections are firing, but in your subconscious mind, 4 million are firing. Would you like some social proof? Great. Let's imagine we're driving down the road. We're coming from a meeting. It's about 10 o'clock at night. We're both kind of hungry, so we pull off at an exit we've never been at before. The first restaurant that we see, there's two restaurants right next to each other. The first one we see, kind of a beat-up parking lot. 3 of the 4 lights are on in the parking lot. One of them's out completely. One of them's kind of dim. There's 3 or 4 beat-up trucks. It's kind of an older brick building, looks a little shabby. And there's 3 or 4 little windows, and we can just kind of barely see inside there. Right next to it, same size parking lot, beautifully paved, 6 floodlights, 50 or 60 newer cars, big windows in there. People are laughing, having a good time. It's well lit. Which of the 2 restaurants are you stopping in? Well, everybody says they stop in the second restaurant. They pick the second one. When we ask audiences why, everybody says the same 3 things. Well, it's safer, it's cleaner, and the food's better. But the proof is we don't have any evidence to know that. The first restaurant, the owner of the restaurant might have just beat Bobby Flay in a throwdown for best barbecue on the planet. But our subconscious mind makes that decision, and it never forgets anything. So while consciously we believe that we actually make the decisions, our subconscious mind is running through every experience that's even remotely related to what's going on when you're engaged with the prospect. And each mind has 2 DEFCON 5 filters. The first one is God-given, or the Creator gave it to us. It's self-preservation. Obviously, that is going around the clock. We've all had the experience of driving down the road. We're drinking a Starbucks coffee. We're listening to our favorite song, talking on the cell phone, and somebody zings into the lane in front of us. Everything stops. We drop the coffee, drop the conversation, grab the wheel, and quickly get to safety. That's running 24/7. We're not even conscious of it, but you've had that experience. There's the proof that the subconscious makes all the decisions. The second one is an acquired one, and that is nobody likes to be sold. So if you bring up the plan, the product, or the company, they're immediately going to see salesman approaching. You don't like to sell. Remember when you couldn't sell those Girl Scout cookies? You couldn't build a paper route. You didn't like standing outside asking for money for the Little League. You don't like to sell. Those sales guys sold you some junk. You don't like that stuff. You don't like it when people pressure other people. Tell them no. Tell them no. It's literally a shrieking from your subconscious mind to delay, okay? Now, another thing that we need to understand about the subconscious mind is the strongest thing in our subconscious is self-preservation. It's what keeps your body running involuntarily. But curiosity is the second most powerful part of the subconscious. And if you bypass these two filters and raise their curiosity, then link it to their ego, we can leverage the fact that everybody wants to be valued and seen as having values. If we link that to their curiosity with these two simple words, and I'll show you exactly how it works in a second, what happens is you get a yes, and it's involuntary. They're saying yes in their subconscious 5 to 8 seconds before their conscious mind actually lets the words come out of the mouth, and we're going to prove this to you. Hey, guess who? Let's play a little guess who. If I were to describe high pressure, loud, and then I added to that suit, smooth talker, con artist, liar, who would come up in your mind? Well, you'd probably think salesman, which is really interesting. How do you feel about them? Well, most of us don't like that type of salesman. And we think hard closing car salesman. Now, the fabulous Davine, my wife, was a car salesman with Honda. Was a top producer with them for 2 years, so I got nothing against car salespeople. But we all have one bad experience that comes up. But here's the really interesting thing. I said guess who, not guess what occupation, but was easily, with a magic sequence of words, able to guide you into thinking about an occupation without ever saying it. There's social proof that the subconscious mind makes all the decisions. So the big question that you have to ask yourself is, was Bobby Jones the only Grand Slam winner in the history of golf, meaning he won all 4 majors within a year and really changed the game of golf? Bobby Jones said, golf is a game played mainly on a 5-inch course between our ears. And what this training is really all about is to get you to this life-defining moment for you to buy into the idea that the subconscious makes all the decisions. We have our 2 friends down here, Nancy the achiever and Al the non-achiever. Nancy's figured out that 10 inches determines success or failure for herself and everybody in her organization. What are the 10 inches? Well, the 5 inches between our ears and the 5 inches between the prospect's ears. Understanding that the subconscious makes all the decisions, and the plan, the product, and the company don't have anything to do with their initial reaction to, 1, enjoy the experience, and 2, take the information with enthusiasm. Nancy gets that her entire career is defined in those 10 inches. She's got to accept the fact that the subconscious makes all the decisions and learn how to talk to the prospect's 5 inches between their ears. Al, on the other hand, he's more interested in trying to glossy up the presentation, which does what? Raise the sales filter. You may recall at the very top of the module here, we said we're going to offer you a couple of little experiments to try to prove this to you without you taking any risks. So have some fun with this. Don't judge what we're asking you to do. I'm not going to talk about talking to prospects at this point. But what I want you to do is 2, 3, 4 people in the course of the rest of this day that you come into contact with, your wife, your sister, whatever, somebody at the grocery store, it doesn't matter. Just look them directly in the eye, make some eye contact, and say, oh, hey, I just learned that most people, and then sort of drop a pen on the floor, bend over and scratch your leg like you have an inch, breaking eye contact, then come back up and reestablish eye contact with a blank stare. You'll be stunned by the change in their body language. You've just frozen their conscious mind, bypassed the filters, engaged their subconscious, raised their curiosity, and triggered the compulsion to know more with just those 2 words, most people. Really amazing. So do yourself a favor, try it a couple of times. It's by the 3rd or 4th time, it's hard to keep a straight face. They're literally leaning forward saying, you were saying most people? They want to know. The filters are down. The subconscious is opened up. The curiosity factor is now working in your favor. Okay, so let's break this down. 2 words plus a formula will yield multiple skills. And this was what I was alluding to when I said it'll show you how to get a follow-up within 24 hours, how to eliminate all objections, how to get people to actually look or listen to the material that you want them to. So if you're making notes, on the top line, you want to write this down exactly the way you see it here. Most people, because I want you to have this as I give you 3 or 4 examples so you'll get the aha moment. Oh, I see what he's doing. The same thing at every juncture. And then I get the desired result at every juncture, which is a yes. So top line, most people. Underneath that, get excited or curious. Then positive statement and what you want them to do. Okay, that's important. Whether it's booking the follow-up or viewing the information. Now, this might raise the sales filter, and I'm going to show you where to hesitate exactly, because if you can raise the sales filter up to a certain point and then make it disappear, the subconscious has already made a decision that it's not a selling situation, and you really have a clean highway to getting done what you want to get done. Next line is, but some of them don't. Okay, that's going to put that filter down. The ones that don't, and then skip 3 or 4 lines, we'll go over that in a minute, but we're going to have a couple of negative statements and say something positive about family there, okay? And then at the end is the line, restate what you want them to do in question form. So that's the formula. Most people get excited or curious and want more information. But, honestly, Jack, some of them don't. The ones that don't, I think you probably know the type. They'd rather surf the internet, watch TV, and complain about how much money their wife's spending instead of taking care of themselves and their families. All right? Now here's 4 or 5 that you can use. Drink beer, talk football, watch TV, surf the internet, complain. But you're going to use most people in several different junctures in the prospecting and recruiting cycle. So you want several little phrases like this as you get them, because you can use them interchangeably, and we'll show you how to do that. But these are 5 that you can write down. 3 that seem to work really well are watch TV, surf the internet, and complain. Now this skill works once you've used it a few times, for a week or 2, about 94% of the time. Right out of the box, you'll get 80 to 85% of the people to say yes whenever you want them to. Why is that? Well, it's simple. Everybody in life wants 3 things. They want to feel secure, they want to feel appreciated, and they want to feel like their life has some significance. Now, what these words mean to people and the order of their priority in their life changes as we go through life. But it's always there, and you can leverage these 3 things in the subconscious mind to obtain a yes. So let's go back and look at the dreaded question broken down line by line so you have it word for word. And then I'll show you how these 3 words get you a yes every single time. So let's break down the dreaded question. It's really simple. Okay, I don't know when they ask you that question that we don't want to hear. I love hearing it. You get 100% of the people that ask that question take the information. That's how it works. Well, what have you made so far? I don't know. I haven't finished collecting it all yet. Most people, once they hear they can do something right once and get paid over and over and over again, well, they get excited, or at least a little curious, and they want to get more information. But, honestly, John, some of them don't. I think you know the type. Ones that don't, they're the type of people that would rather watch TV, surf the internet, drink beer, and complain instead of taking care of themselves and their families. Would you like me to get you some information, John? May I do that for you? May I? Now, let's go back over this thing. When I say, because once you learn this, you can have so much fun with it. When you say a little curious and want more information, but honestly, John, some of them don't. What you're doing by picking up the pace before a little curious, in other words, when I said get paid over and over and over again and get excited, boy, I'm raising that sales filter up in them. When I say, but honestly, John, some of them don't. I think you know the type. The sales filter's down, the curiosity is raised, and you can literally play and push that sales filter to the brink of losing them and knock it right down. I'll tell you something, it's hard to keep a straight face. This gets so easy. They take the information 100% of the time. Now, the words may I can have a massive effect once you start saying them all the time. Here's why. Instead of yes or no, you're saying, may I do that for you? May I get you some information, John? May I do that for you? John has to say, no, you may not. Nobody wants to say that. So between them, automatically in their subconscious mind saying yes 7 seconds ahead of time, as soon as you knock that filter down and the words may I'm telling you, you got a slam dunk here. Yes, 100. I get yes 100% of the time, and everybody says that uses this skill that they get yes 100% of the time when people ask them how much they're making. Would that make a difference to you to be totally comfortable hearing that question? Makes a difference for most people. Would it be okay with you if I shared with you why I'm going into so much detail rather than just giving you the scripts? Well, it's because we were failing, you may recall, in networking. I mean, we were really struggling just to make rent. And here I was in networking failing the same way again. Once I bought into the fact that the subconscious mind makes all the decisions, and I learned these two words, most people, we moved from debt and desperation to peace and prosperity for one simple reason. We were able to abandon the lie that I had heard in the 80s and was hearing again in the 90s that you just have to find the right people. I realized it was about what I said and what I did. So let me explain why this works so well. What we say is most people, yada, 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 and then we state a desired objective. You know, most people, once they hear about this, get excited and want more information. That's going to slightly raise the sales filter. But when we hesitate and say, but, you know, honestly, John, some of them don't. I think you know the type. An amazing thing happens in their subconscious mind. They do not hear the words most people, some people, so you can use them over and over and over again. They never hear them. What they hear, once the sales filter goes down, and it's very easy to bypass it if you just hesitate a little bit, what they actually hear is there's two types of people in the world, and you've bypassed the sales filter, actually vanished it, and when that happens, you've engaged their curiosity, and they want to know which group they're in. This compulsion that we all have to belong is rooted in our sense of having to feel secure. Belonging makes people feel secure. I mean, look at just a simple city like Boston, Massachusetts. People pay $22.50 for a T-shirt that they could buy for $4. Why do they pay $22.50? Because it says Boston Red Sox on it. Think about the insanity of that. We're actually paying $18.50 more for a T-shirt to advertise for the Boston Red Sox. When we put that T-shirt on, we're advertising somebody else's product. We're paying to advertise for them. It's crazy, but it makes people feel secure to be part of Red Sox Nation. And whether it's mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual, the idea of belonging to a church, belonging to a fan base, belonging in a family, this makes us feel secure. Now, the next thing that happens in the subconscious is they hear about how bad the second group is, and their subconscious says, you're not like them, you're in the first group. Now, this is when it really gets exciting. Because we all want to feel appreciated, ego kicks in, and the only way that they can prove to you that they don't belong in the second group is to do what most people do, which is listen to the information or come to the meeting or whatever. So security, significance, and appreciation, once you engage their curiosity, work in your favor if you stay away from talking about the plan, the product, or the company. Those three types of things raise sales filters. This way of doing it, most people, yada, 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 Something really simple. Most people, once they hear about this, well, they get kind of excited or a little curious. But honestly, John, some of them don't. I think you know the type. Now, let me tell you something really amazing. That decision is actually made in 7 seconds prior to the words actually coming out of their mouth. And we constantly hear little sounds of agreement. Actually, prospects interrupt us and ask us for information when we're saying, but some of them don't. I think you know the type. They're the type of people that would, rather watch TV, surf the internet, and drink beer instead of taking care. You hear little noises like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's absolutely uncanny. What's happened there when you hear those little sounds that they make or agreements or say, yeah, I know what you mean. When they're saying that, they've already made the decision to take your information, and it's tough to keep a straight face. Everybody knows that successful network marketers love leverage. So let me show you several ways to use exactly the same skill, multiple uses for the same skill. Would it be okay with you if I showed you 4 ways to use the most people skill in addition to getting people to take information? We can use the most people skill to have negative people actually ask us for information. We can use it to get them to actually listen to the information. I like to call them third-party tools, might be a CD, DVD, or a meeting. We can use most people to nail the follow-up within 24 hours and not get delayed for a week or 2. That's just nuts. And most importantly, I've always felt that trying to overcome objections is baloney. That's actually another skill we're going to teach. But you can use most people to eliminate all objections before you actually show them your plan. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I can tell you that trying to figure out how to overcome objections is baloney. It's a total waste of time. Just eliminate them before you show them what you're going to show them, and they're ready to buy and they're ready to join. So let's go over each one of these. Now, I've used the phrase several times, ready to buy and ready to join. I just want to redefine that, meaning that they're ready to buy your next suggestion and they're ready to join you in that and participating in that next suggestion. Man, here's 10 or 12 options that are pretty common. You could plug them into a sizzle call, a conference call. If you're brand new, you could just get their phone number and then 3-way them with your upline. The point is, make sure that you pick 1 or 2 of these that you're very comfortable with, and as your skill sets grow by leveraging the site, The World's Laziest Networker, you'll have more of these options open to you. And a lot of people ask me what SMEAR means. It means shut mouth, extend arm, and release. So if you're giving out CDs, when they say yes, just give them the CD and book the follow-up. So you got the idea here of what I mean by ready to buy and ready to join, but you need to pick what that option's going to be for them. Now here's the 3-step plan or the recruiting cycle protocol that we're using for this training. Again, your team may call it something else, but at step 1, we're striking interest. At step 2, we're having them review information. Remember, at step 1, we're also booking a follow-up. And then at step 3, we're getting back together and collect decisions. So let's show you how to use this most people skill at each one of these steps. We'll start at step 1 so that you can get a yes at each juncture. Okay, so let's get a lot more people to take information. Do you think you can find any negative people? Up here in New England, we call them friends and relatives, and of course in my organization, everybody in my organization loves to say, everybody's so negative, at least the ones that don't know the most people skill. Actually, they know it, they just don't use it and practice it. But I say negative people, bring them on. This is all you have to do. It's actually kind of funny. Let them complain. This is how you can use the most people skill to light a fire under negative people. It's really simple. After they're done complaining, I look them dead in the eye, or if I'm on the phone and I'm listening to them complain, I just let them talk, and then I'm quiet, and I say, most people that feel that way get pretty excited when they find out they can do something about it. But some of them don't, Charlie. I think you know the type. They're the type that love being a victim, love feeling sorry for themselves and drinking beer and whining instead of taking care of themselves and their families. Charlie, would you like to do something about it? Folks, he doesn't have a choice. Now, once you're a little more practiced at this, you can actually even be more specific about what you want them to do next and not even really give them a choice. And that would go something like this. After they're done complaining, say, most people that feel that way get really excited and they listen to this CD so that they can do something about it. But honestly, Charlie, some of them don't. I think you know the type. They're the type that love being a victim, love feeling sorry for themselves, and they'd rather drink beer and whine about everything that's wrong instead of taking care of themselves and their families. Here's the CD, Charlie. He doesn't have a choice. His hand comes out immediately, or you can get him a link to a webinar, whatever you're doing. But that's how you light a fire under negative people. It's a piece of cake. Most people, once they hear this, get really busy and study this right away. But I'm just kidding with you. Okay. Just having fun with you. Okay, we're back here again at the 3-step plan, and let's talk about step 2. Now, this is really a frustrating part for a lot of people in the business because we give them a CD or we invite them to a webcast. They don't want to book a follow-up, and of course, they don't show up, and that's a little disappointing unless you know the most people skills. So let me show you how that works on this juncture. Well, by now, I'm certain that you figured out how much I love leverage, using the same thing in multiple places. And the most people skill here, you really get a 2-for-1 hit. You can literally will them to actually look at the information. I know how disappointing it is when people say they're going to review something and they don't. You can use the most people skill to dramatically increase that number, as well as book a follow-up. A follow-up is always set. That is, a follow-up appointment for after they've reviewed information is always set up at the time that you exchange information. And of course, a lot of times people say, yeah, I'll listen to it and give me a call sometime next week. That's not a follow-up. You need to get a specific time, and you want to get it done within 24 hours. That's key. And this skill, most people, gives you a 2-for-1 hit here. I love it. This is actually how I do it. Let's just say that we were using a CD here. It could be a webcast, could be a DVD you want them to watch. It really doesn't matter. It could be a website you want them to visit. It's really irrelevant because it's all exactly the same. So we'll use CD, and we'll use say the prospect's name is Jack here. And most people I give this CD to set a firm appointment within 24 hours, and they listen to it immediately. But honestly, Jack, some of them don't. The ones that don't, they pretty much never keep their word about anything. They usually don't even listen to it. They throw it on the front seat of their car, and they think that it's perfectly okay to set an appointment and then blow it off with no intention of even being there. And the reason they do that is they're too busy drinking beer, watching TV, and surfing the internet instead of taking care of themselves and their family. So is tomorrow at 2:30 a good time for you, Jack? Same as today? Now, you'll notice in red that it says your toughest appointment challenge. Well, what that means is we all have little things that seem to happen to us more often. And a lot of times when people are recruiting, some people in my group, they run into people that never have any money. Other people run into people that never have any time. Other people seem to constantly run into people that think what we do is a pyramid thing. It's all irrelevant. What really matters is that you leverage that. So you want to take the toughest appointment challenge you have. Maybe that's people setting appointments and not keeping them. And that's what you want to use it in there, because his subconscious mind will default to what the people do that you want them to do. In other words, if people don't show up for your appointments, I would say something like, the ones that don't pretty much never keep their word. They usually don't even listen. They just toss it on the seat. And worst of all, they think it's perfectly okay to set an appointment and then blow it off without any consideration of ever even keeping the appointment. They actually kid themselves into thinking that they're not hurting somebody's feelings because they're too lazy to take care of themselves and their families, and they'd rather watch TV and surf the internet. So what time did you want to meet tomorrow, Jack? Now, right there, he's going to get in the car, he's going to open that CD, and he's going to put it right in the CD player. By the way, if you're using CDs, most of these CDs that come through that people use for recruiting or DVDs, they're in these virtually impenetrable packages, so make sure that you've already opened it a little bit. I like to open them right in front of people when I'm using CDs just to make sure. A lot of times I'll walk right out to the car and say, hey, let's pop it in, make sure this one plays. Some of them are blank. But anyway, just to go over this again, most people who I give this CD to set a firm appointment within 24 hours and they listen right away. But honestly, Jack, some of them don't. The ones that don't, they type that, gosh, they never keep their word about anything. They don't even listen to it. They throw it on the front seat of their car, and they think it's perfectly okay to set an appointment up for the next day and then just blow it off by telling me something bogus like, oh, something came up. And what they were really doing was watching TV, surfing the internet, instead of taking care of themselves and their families. So is this a good time for you tomorrow? This seems like a good time for you. Is 2:30 good for you, Jack? Okay, that's how you nail both the follow-up and create a compulsion for them to view it right away, because they don't want to be like the people that don't listen to it because of the way that you describe them. Okay, here we are back at our 3-step plan, and let's talk about how using the most people skill will help you in collecting decisions. Well, we always come to a step 3 meeting to collect decisions from people with the end in mind, and the end in mind is to get them to enroll. But we run into objections once in a while. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. Cute ways to overcome objections is just a total waste of time. It's never about the time and it's never about the money. It's about their decision made in the subconscious mind. So what you want to do is eliminate objections rather than have to deal with them. So what I like you to do is write down your most common objection. I kind of talked about this before. People tend to run into the same problems. I don't know, it's just one of those oddities. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Paul's always running into people with no money. Mary's always running into people with no time. And the other one's always running into people that think this is a pyramid or whatever. It just seems to work out that way. So whatever your most common objection is that annoys you the most, that's the one you want to use here in the fill in the blank. The first thing that I do when I get together with them is say, hey, listen, I'm glad you showed up. Now you're going to kind of go over the marketing plan with them. Say, hey, I'm glad you showed up on time. Let's hop right in here. Now, let me tell you before we start, most people who I show this to, they get excited and they join right away. But some of them don't. The ones that don't, well, they're closed-minded, and they think this is one of those pyramid things, and they say stupid things like, oh, I don't have the time to make $200,000 a year. I'm too busy being broke. Because the reality is they'd rather watch TV, smoke dope, drink beer, and complain instead of taking care of their family and themselves. Okay, let me show you how this works. Right there, you've eliminated all those objections because their subconscious mind is going to what? Recognize that there's 2 types of people in the world, and because they want to belong, they don't want to belong to the second group, and the only way that they can prove that to you is to do what the people in the first group do. And what do most people do? They get excited and they join right away. Now, whatever your most common one is, you can drop that right in there and eliminate it. What if their thinking is this one of those pyramid things, and your most common objection is time, people telling you that they don't have the time? It actually works better. Here's why. Because they think that the group that you're describing are really losers, and the same compulsion to belong takes over in the subconscious mind, and they don't want to belong to that group. They want to belong to the first group you described. Nobody wants to belong to the second group. So this is 4 different ways to use the most people skill. You're not viewing this training because you're looking for an opportunity. You're here because you want to make lots and lots of money. Some people, keeping an open mind, have actually embraced the most people skill and gone on to make a fortune by creating perfect invitations. Now, the perfect invitation is always going to end up the same way. Most people, once they hear about this, get excited or curious and want more information. But, honestly, Jack, some of them don't. The ones that don't, well, you know the type. Now, what happens is we consistently and constantly, better than 50% of the time, when we start that sentence, the ones that don't, well, you know the type. They'd rather watch TV, surf the internet, drink beer, and complain. We hear a sound of agreement like, huh, yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, yeah, I know that type. As soon as Nancy, remember Nancy's our check casher, Al's the one that's not cashing any checks at all, and as soon as Nancy hears that, it doesn't trigger a compulsion in her about the business. She stays on track and accomplishes her objective, which is to get agreement to view the information and to book a specific follow-up appointment. And she does so by learning how to enhance the perfect invitation. You may recall from way back in the beginning, and if you pick this up a second or third time and have forgotten about our two friends, Al and Nancy, remember everything's the same commitment, same company, same marketing plan. One's cashing huge checks, the other isn't cashing any checks at all. Most people work so well that some people, as soon as a prospect shows some interest, well, they start throwing up on people. You know, Al will start talking about the bonus on the 87th level and why the compensation plan compresses under certain circumstances and all kinds of the ingredients. Nancy doesn't do that at all. Nancy stays on track, and she realizes their subconscious has said yes. What she wants to do next is find a few magic words that'll instantly build trust in the prospect's mind, so what they're going to view or listen to, they believe. This is what Nancy does, the check casher. It's not what Al does. Al, as soon as he sees any interest at all, becomes a loose cannon. So what does Nancy actually do to create this instant trust? Now, Nancy realizes that her entire career is defined in less than 15 seconds at this point. It's not fair, but the reason that it's defined in less than 15 seconds is the subconscious mind instantly relates the experience that they're having right at that point in time to every experience that closely or in any way resembles what they're going through, and makes a decision to trust or to not trust what's going to happen next. Nancy understands this while Al is trying to figure out what to say to get people to join right on the spot, which is a big mistake, by throwing up on people. Nancy says a couple of simple words that instantly build rapport. Now, what this does is it means that the material that Nancy is giving, they're going to trust that the material that they're going to listen to or view is true. Would that make a difference in your business? Well, the next skill that we want to offer you, called Building Instant Rapport, I've actually used it several times through here, which is a big reason, outside of the common sense in this material, that you've stayed with the presentation up to this point in time, and it makes sense to you. Now, I told you at the beginning, this is not going to lead to any squeeze pages or upsells. We want to give you that absolutely free, as promised. Here's how to get it. Now, most people are pretty pumped when they learn there's another free skill available that's not going to lead to any squeeze pages or upsells, and do whatever it takes to get it. But some of them don't. Again, just having fun with you. You see how easy this is. Okay, this is how you get the free skill. Just use the link that we provided you with when you were originally opting in. Get it to your team or other networkers who you know who want to be successful. And as soon as 3 or more opt in, we'll get you the instant rapport skill absolutely free, and promise, no question about it, there won't be any upsell, squeeze pages, lead generation, or any of that nonsense being marketed to you. Just freely give away what's been given to you, and your business will grow. It's really frustrating when we're telling people the truth and they don't believe us. Everybody wants prospects to trust what we're telling them. Some people, keeping an open mind, have actually discovered a skill called building instant rapport that makes prospects instantly trust what we're saying. So not only can you get that skill, but I got some more good news for you. Do you know what goes through the prospect's head? Well, we have a skill called What Goes Through the Prospect's Head skill. Wouldn't it be easier if you knew exactly what the 3 things were that are in every prospect's mind so you could speak to those specifically on a subconscious level? And we're going to give you that skill free, plus 3 additional skills are up at the website. 5 accelerators to duplication. The 3D pattern has made me more money than anything in this industry except for the most people skill. And if you're not familiar with it, you can get some information on the home-based business tax advantage. Now, these skills are actually up at the worldslaziestnetworker.com. The instant rapport one is not. We've shown you how to get that. But these skills are also free. Again, we're just sort of worn out by people wasting money on buying secrets. There are no secrets, so I accepted Big Al's challenge, and I accepted the Fabulous Dave Ian's challenge to get this stuff up here for you for free so you can grow and prosper. So you can check that out. Those 4 skills are up there right now. What do all leaders do? Well, there's only 2 types of reps in network marketing. There's distributors and there's leaders. What do all leaders have in common? I got to tell you something. I know. They cheat. PPPPP stands for perfect practice prevents poor performance. So what leaders will do is go through this training several times and master the most people skill and then teach it as if it's your own. That's fine. You can share this with people, or you can be the star. It really doesn't matter. Just teach the skills. I thought it was really interesting watching the Masters tournament this weekend, is that after Friday and Saturday's round, the practice range with these professional golfers, they were over there hitting thousands and thousands of balls. And that's the one thing that I know about leaders, because leaders cash checks, distributors don't. The leaders were over there. These professional golfers were out hitting balls. But what was really interesting, the course was full of spectators who were paying money to watch players play. And that's really a significant difference. Players get paid to play. Spectators pay to watch players play. The skills work much better if you use them. Just like Mickelson and Westwood and Tiger Woods, they were all over there hitting balls until it got dark, and then they were on the putting surface for another couple hours each. What were they doing? They were practicing their skills. The skills work much better if you use them. Most people, once they understand this concept, get busy, they go back through the key slides, they write things down, and they practice. But some of them don't. I think you know the type. There's an old saying in training: tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. I'm not going to go back through all the details. Let's just quickly review what we've covered here. First of all, this is a skill-based business, and if we're going to make some money, we're going to have to learn some skills. Teaching skills to your people creates more active groups. The leaders are teachers, and getting yes more often builds belief that the recruiting process is easy, and it builds belief in you. You want to build belief in both of those areas by teaching them some skills. The most people skill makes the recruiting process easy because they can use it to get yes at several junctures. That's really the short version of the review, and don't worry, there's not a long version of it. So we had Al, the non-check casher, and Nancy, the big check casher. This is what Nancy would do next. We talked at the very beginning that it's not that winners do certain things, it's that they do things in a certain way. Nancy will quickly learn the most people skill, and she'll earn the instant rapport skill. She'll practice, and then she'll practice some more after reviewing it over and over. Nancy learns that the subconscious mind makes all the decisions. Al, he's not going to learn that at all. There's really only two types of reps in the world. You just have to decide which group you see yourself in, and what you do next will really determine that. So we've talked about how to get yeses at each one of the junctures of the recruiting cycle. But how do you get the conversation started and stay loyal to these rules? Rejection free, not embarrassing or pressuring anybody, and having a high probability of striking interest with the prospect. So they might say something like, "What do you mean?" or "Tell me more about that." Well, not in less than 90 seconds, not in less than 30 seconds, but in less than 15 seconds, which is where the decision's made anyway. They're ready to buy your next suggestion, and they're ready to join once you learn and master the skill called instant rapport. And of course, they're going to lean forward, they're going to ask you for more information, and you're going to use the most people skill to get a yes and get them the material. You're going to use the most people skill to get them to book a follow-up and actually view it. So you should be pretty excited. Here's exactly what to do next so that you can get that instant rapport skill. Most people get these 4 steps done right away that want to make lots and lots of money. Get the link we sent you when you originally opted in to a lot of folks. That will earn that instant rapport builder skill for you. We'll show you in the instant rapport builder skill how to combine it with the most people skill, so you'll have people all day long leaning forward, wanting more information, and now you know how to get them to say yes. And learn what goes through the prospect's head skill. It's a great skill. If you don't know, if you can't tell somebody in your organization right this second the 3 things in the prospect's mind, then they're going to struggle, and so are you. That's a free skill. It's already up on the site. Check it out. You'll love that skill.